Welcome back to the Future Agent Podcast. We are here. The vibes are high. It's
Super
a Monday. It's a Monday. We're feeling good. Hope y'all had a great weekend. This is part two. I'm excited for part two. I had so many people come up and talk to me about part one. I was like, hey, you know what? If it works, it works. But here's the reality. Everything that we're talking about today doesn't work unless you put the time in. So those first 5 steps don't work unless you do. They will not help your year. They will not help your career. They will not save you from whatever brokerage you're at unless you put the time in. Before we get into this, my name is Boo Maddox, team lead here at the Perry Group. First team in Utah history, sell 1,000 transactions. We're having a lot of fun doing this. I think this is my favorite thing that we do. We do a lot of content together. This is by far my favorite because I think that we are not prepping agents for today. We're prepping them for what an agent needs to be in the future to be successful.
100%. And my name's Tony Acosta. I've been in the industry for over 13 years. I have my broker license. Now we're here at the Perry Group. So if you haven't seen episode 1, go back, watch episode 1. But this was 10 tips for strategic and effective business planning. What do you need to look out for? What do you need to consider? What don't you need to consider? What matters? What doesn't matter? We went through the first 5 last time. Today we're going over the second 5 on our list. So let's get into it. You want to go for point number 6?
Focus on personal branding to stand out in your market. Now, this is one that we talk about. We just had an interview. We talked about this. This is what I think most real estate agents are missing. This component is why most real estate agents are out of the business within their first 2 years of joining. Why? Because they do not know, or they're populist. They're the people that look up to them as the go-to person in the market don't know that they exist. This is not just about posting on social media. This is not about just throwing events. This is about creating a business that works even when you're not. All the other activity-based prospecting methods that we talk about all the time, open houses, knocking doors, cold calling, all of that stops. Those leads stop the second that you stop doing said activity. A personal brand is something that helps you generate deals. So let's go back to when young Tony Acosta was just a showing agent, didn't have a personal brand to speak of. And I think the other thing, if I could just add, is you're going to tell your story. This is the part that makes you impervious from any market, any broker, any brokerage, anybody turning your lead switch on or off. This is the thing that makes you impervious and makes you your own business. This is where agents want to scale to, but they don't know how.
Yeah, it does. It makes you bulletproof. So for context, as you said, I got into the industry when I was 21. I just turned 21, 22. I'd never run a business before, and I started doing these showings, but as you mentioned, you have a lead flow, which is a great thing early on. And when I started realizing that I needed to do some sort of content, all I would do is anytime somebody asked me a question, I would write down the question. I would go on Facebook. Instagram wasn't really a thing back then. I would go on Facebook and just answer the question. And over time, as I did that every single day, I'd get a DM over here, a DM over there, a question over here. Eventually, that lead flow stopped. And if it wasn't for that little Facebook page, if it wasn't because every time I posted I got 87 views, I got 110 views, and I had a couple of clients, I remember at the time I had 1 listing, I had 1 person trying to get approved. If it wasn't for that, when that lead flow stopped, I would have been completely out of the business. So when you talk about personal branding, it's building something that nobody can take away. It's building reputation that it doesn't matter what logo is behind you, people are still going to reach out to you because they trust you and they know that you're an expert. So I often say if you don't have enough business, it's because of one of 2 problems or both. Number 1, not enough people know you exist. Or number 2, the people that do know you exist don't yet see you as a slam dunk number 1 option. Personal branding fixes both of those issues. And again, it's that insurance policy against a lead flow stopping, or if all of a sudden they get more expensive, something happens in your life. That is the only thing that is going to keep your phone ringing and the DMs flowing if for whatever reason, you have to start over somewhere else.
And I think that the reason this is so difficult for agents to do is because it takes so much damn time relative to the other 2 prospecting methods that we talk about. You talk about a paid lead source. That's one, you write the check, leads start flowing, or they should start flowing really quickly thereafter. Activity-based prospecting, you throw an open house, you come into the office on Monday, and you have 3 people to follow up with. This takes more time. And I love what you said because you kind of talked through the timeline that needs to exist with this. We talked about this. We did a full 30-minute training on this last week in our office. If you are not constantly putting in time to building your personal brand while you are doing your other 2 activity-based prospecting and paid lead sources, you are going to miss the mark. If you had waited until that broker flipped that lead switch on and off for you and then started posting on Facebook, you would have died. Yep. You would have been out of the industry and you would not be sitting here in the chair. But because you were putting the time in when you didn't quote unquote have to, It was there when you needed it to be. And I think this is where so many agents go wrong, because they do it. They post a couple of times on social media. They post religiously for 30, 60, 90 days. And when they don't get any leads out of it, what happens? They evaluate and they say, hey, I get better traction through open houses. You are correct. You get more instant gratification from doing open houses, but the long-term success that we're talking about has to be built, in my opinion, for 15 to 30 minutes a day. If you're an agent that doesn't have enough business and you don't have 1 to 2 hours a day of prospecting scheduled out and time allocated, you're going to lose. But past that, if 15 to 30 minutes of that are not going towards your personal brand, you're going to lose in a year or two when you hit that burnout wall, or you hit that lead source that just says, you're turned off now.
Yeah, and it's such a cliche term. I mean, you hear personal brand, personal brand, personal brand. The way I have tried to define that for myself is, again, it's the insurance policy. It's what's going to keep the DMs flowing, the phone ringing, so that when you post something happens. I mean, I posted about rates dipping. I got 3 or 4 DMs, hey, how do I refi this or that? That's where you want to get, so that when you post something happens. And again, that is something that nobody can take away.
Now, how do you identify this personal brand? I think is what a lot of people are going to ask.
Yeah.
We touched on this last time, but if you don't have that personal brand established, my biggest piece of advice is pick a location that you want to service, that you want to be the expert, and you are going to be the undeniable authority in that area. Until you have that, you're going to just keep spinning your wheels, showing houses all across your state, your county, your city, wherever you're at, and you're going to continue to lose to people. So I think it's super important as we start to transition to our next point, reevaluate what you look at as a win when it comes to personal branding. If you're looking at a win from personal branding as somebody that DM'd you on a house that you posted and said, hey, Tony, that's the exact house that I want, send me the contract, not reasonable. That's the anomaly if it does happen. What is a personal branding win is when you go to the grocery store, you bump into somebody that you haven't seen since high school, and they look at you and they say, hey, aren't you a real estate agent?
That's it.
That's a personal brand win. That's what is going to lead to long-term success. If you can start to stack up, I think your conversion rate on personal brand leads should be anywhere from 20 to 30%, which is double or triple what it is on a paid lead source. You need 5 people every month to say that to you, and you will close 1 to 2 transactions a month.
Yeah, and what I would say is don't overthink it. Seriously, don't overthink it. All it is demonstrate your skill set. If it's a small skill set, if you're new, what are you learning? What are you training? Your first couple of showings, like you have to show people what you do. And here's where it becomes a little bit of a humbling experience, but the world doesn't revolve around you, my friend. People have their own stuff. People, I'll guarantee you, there are people that you think know that you're an agent that have no idea. So it's all about top of mind dynamics. People need to see you, they need to hear from you, and over time start to trust you so that then when the real estate moment comes, you're the person that pops up.
And we talk about developing this personal brand. The reason that we go so much to social media is because it's the tip of the spear for me. That is how you go and start attacking this whole personal brand dilemma. I always make the joke that I sold 100 houses in 1 year. Nobody cared until I started a podcast. That's the reality of this. That's the reality of this. People don't care until you can show them why you're really, really good at this, and this gives you the opportunity to show more people why they should be picking you.
And last thing I'll say, we talked about this in our live a couple of weeks ago, but there's a great book that I love. It's called Society of the Spectacle. The punchline to that book is what is seen is good, and what is good gets seen. So the more people see you, the more they see you out there, that you're busy, you're doing an open house, you have a showing, you have a consultation, the immediate perception is they're busy. People are trusting them. They have clients. They must be good. Versus if they don't hear from you, the reverse is also true. If they see you once a month, it's like, well, you're not that active, my guy. So it's also having that frame of mind when you go out to make content. It's not about getting 1 million views. I posted this on Threads. Realtors, you don't need 1 million views. You need 40 to 50 customers. Completely different mindset on how you post and what you post, trying to get 40 to 50 customers instead of 1 million views.
And while we're on this, because I'm very passionate about this topic, there's one wrong way to post content, and that's not posting at all. That is by just not doing it. Any content is good content. Is there better versions of it? Yes. But there's so many agents that I think stop posting on social media because they feel like they're not good. You are doing good just simply by posting. You'll get better as you go, just like you do with any skill.
100%. So here we go. Number 7, master time management by prioritizing revenue generating activities. So, boo, agents waste a ton of time.
And they love to tell people how busy they are.
Waste so much time.
I'm slammed today.
So we're going to talk about 2 very specific things. We'll both talk about both. But number 1, agents, stop hanging out with other agents. Here's the thing.
Facts.
I mean, going to all of these lunches and going to all these,
They
whether
call
it's
it networking.
networking, lunch and learns. It's okay every once in a while, but there are agents that all they do is hang out with each other, and they call that work. And if you want to network, I don't think networking with other agents is the right move.
They're not going to send you a deal.
They're not going to send
They don't
you a
have
deal.
business for you.
Like, go network with other business professionals, other owners. Okay, maybe, all right, I get it. Go to the Chamber of Commerce, whatever you want to do. But having brunch with your realtor homies 3 times a week for
Where you
90
sit
minutes,
there lamenting about how difficult your life
it's
is.
not going to work. So agents, spend less meaningless time with other agents. That's number one. And number two, have a purpose every single day. We often talk about this to our agents. So one of the things that we love about our office, if you didn't know this, is we have office hours. So this dude went out on a limb and said, hey, we're going to have office hours 10 to 2. Some people push hard against that.
A lot of people have not joined the team because of that.
Specifically because of that. But I mean, this isn't even our opinion, Boo. There is data that shows that if you can put dedicated, purposeful, intentional time, 4 hours a day from 10 to 2, you will produce more.
Well, we just interviewed an agent that's like, you expect me here at 8 o'clock, right? 8 a.m.? Hell no.
No.
That's not sustainable. Spend time with your kids.
So
Spend
talk
time
to
with
us
your
about
wife.
why
Yeah.
10, because I think that is an underrated point of why you chose that time.
Yeah, so it was very deliberate. It was very intentional. Part of, because I did the grind for years where I didn't see my wife, I didn't see my kids, I didn't have a relationship with them. And one of those ways that I started just to claw back some of that time with my kids was I forced myself to drive them to school every morning. And it was the most beautifully humbling experience that I think I've ever had with my kids, because I got in the car with my daughter and I realized we just drove 13 minutes to go to school and we said 4 words to each other because I didn't know how to communicate with them. And so for me, what I think so many agents do, I don't even want to say poorly because I don't think that they know how, but we are incredibly reactionary in this business. We react when something comes in. We're not proactive.
Client
And
says
so,
jump, you jump.
You immediately, and you don't care who you're kicking to the curb to do it. You don't care what you're doing. And I think even if you're not married with kids, we do this to ourselves. We give up our gym time. We give up our morning that we like to spend with ourselves doing what's important to us. So as we were starting to set up office hours, I was like, okay, how early do we go? And somebody threw out 8 a.m. and I said, hell no. Why? Because I'm not going to be here at 8 a.m. So how can I expect my agents to be in here at 8 a.m.? So for me, I have it set from 10 to 2. It's very deliberate, very intentional, very thoughtful. I believe that you should have a dedicated morning routine. I tell all of my agents, I don't care what it is. I don't need you to tell me, hey, I'm going to go to the gym from 6 to 7. I'm going to do my morning affirmations from 7 to 7:30. I don't need any of that. But I think that you should have something that's dedicated because this job is very unstructured at times. So give yourself some structure, some stability when you can. Have a morning routine. Spend time with people that you care about. Don't be calling, don't be texting, don't be emailing clients. Your business will be ready to be picked up at 10 a.m. I always promise my agents, if you lose a client because you didn't text them back at 7 o'clock in the morning, I will personally go and help you find a new one. Set the expectation and say, I will get back to you at 10 when I get into my office. So that 10 o'clock to 12 or to 2 o'clock, to me, is when you should be spending time on your business. The first thing that real estate agents forego the second that they get 2 deals into escrow is that they stop their prospecting. They stop their follow-up. Keep that going. Spend the time that you need to keep your deals rolling, but keep your follow-up, keep your prospecting going from 10 to 2. It's the easiest time. It's the time that I think will be the least interrupted because you're not going to have clients that are, for the most part, that are going to want to go and see houses between 10 to 2. Set yourself up for success. Get all of your calls, all your emails, all your addendum, everything that needs to be done to run your business done from 10 to 2. Chill a little bit, right? I tell everybody I used to play Call of Duty for an hour a day when I was selling 200 houses a year. Why? Because that time from 2 to 3, 2 to 4, when no appointments were had, my business was all set up, it was running. Take some downtime, chill a little bit, and then go and crush your appointments from 3 to 7 when most people are going to want to go and see stuff. Having said that, once that last appointment is done, don't be calling, don't be texting, don't be emailing people. Why? Trust yourself and trust your business that it's going to be there at 10 o'clock when you get in there the next day. I tell agents that there's 2 reasons why you should violate this evening time don't call me list. Number 1, if it's to save a deal that has to be saved that night, or number 2, if it's to get somebody under contract.
That's it.
That's it. Other than that, 90% of the stuff that we think can't wait can absolutely wait.
It can absolutely wait. And I think it's the version 2.0 of that is, let's say you say, okay, great, I buy it. 10 to 2, I'm doing it, I'm setting these hours, whether it's at home, wherever it is. The next portion of that is when you get to the office, you have to know what to do.
Yeah.
You have to have things to do. That's why we here in the office, we try our best to fill stuff. Friday we have team meeting, Thursdays we have content, some days we have Zillow training, other days you try to fill the calendar as much as you can. But I tell new agents, If you just show up and you just sit there and scroll Instagram, there's no purpose behind it. So when it comes to time management, it's setting the time, great. Step one, check. But then it's being very clear on what do I need to be doing, which
How
is
you're
where
spending that time.
the whole mentorship thing comes into play. Because there are a lot of agents that, yeah, they might buy into putting the time in, but they're either not doing enough, they're not doing anything, or they're just simply doing the wrong things that aren't translating to the success that they're looking for
And calling themselves busy.
and calling themselves busy.
Next point, Mr. Tingy. Number 8, track and analyze progress with key performance indicators. Most agents don't do this.
Either don't have KPIs or they have the wrong ones.
They're sitting there in ChatGPT right now. What are KPIs? That's okay. We'll explain it.
We'll explain it.
Key performance indicators.
Yep.
These are the things that you should be tracking. And I think that this is where so many agents fail because their KPIs that they're tracking are closings. So statistically speaking, you're going to have 3 or 4 closings a year. If you're like 70% of our marketplace, you're going to have 3 to 4 closings a year. What does that mean? That means that you have 4 days a year that are incredible, and you have 360 days that suck ass in this job. And so it's because they're not tracking the right things.
Yeah.
And I this is how I ultimately scaled my business one year from 75 when I was tracking closings to 204 transactions the next year, because I was tracking what I'm feeding into the machine, not the output of the machine. And that's where so many agents, I think, are messed up right now.
And it may not even be their fault, because I always talk about the real estate education system being completely broken.
Trash.
Completely broken. It needs to be burned down, and even if it needs to be rebuilt is debatable. But what are you tracking? So to your point, and I want to ask you this specifically because I know that you talk about this to our agents a lot. What is a win? What should I track? If it's not closings, what does my list look like? Like what?
To me, it's a funnel. It goes from conversations into leads. Leads turn into clients. Clients turn into active clients, and active clients turn into transactions.
So if conversations is the top of the funnel,
Yeah.
then the question has to be, where do I get more conversations? How do I get more conversations? So if we start there, what is your advice to agents if they're like, okay, that makes perfect sense. How do I get more conversations? But if I'm going to be in 10 to 2, how do I generate those?
Yeah, it has to start with those 2 prospecting methods that we said at the beginning. Prospecting is the scoop of pre-workout that you're putting into the top of the formula or into the top of the funnel.
Sure.
And so if it has to come from conversations that you have from people that are interested in real estate. And so that can be anything from following up with open house clients, you're cold calling people, you're door knocking. If you're not putting anything into the top of that funnel, it's not going to have anything that comes out of the bottom. So I tell all of our agents, we just had this conversation a second ago, I don't care what it is. Whatever you can do to be generating conversations works. And I have seen a million different things work in our 12 months of doing this. Mm-hmm. I've had agents walk up to me and show me their WhatsApp stories and say, hey, I started 3 conversations from a story on WhatsApp. And I had to look at them. I said, that's not a real lead, because that's the general sentiment in our industry. And he said, no, I'm Latino. This is where a lot of my people are spending their time. So that's really where you start, is where do your prospective clients spend their time? Get in front of them there and then start generating those conversations.
And again, it's about making a choice of what is going to be that method. A lot of agents, they either try to do everything or they're just spread out too thin. So what are some of those ideas? Am I going to cold call? Am I going to door knock? Am I going to do open houses? So that 10 to 2 is the time to either prepare for that or go out and actually do it. So if you're going to make cold calls, work on your scripting. What kind of calls am I going to be making? If you're door knocking, what are the neighborhoods? Why that neighborhood? Why not a different neighborhood? If you're going to be doing, whether it's content or whether it's open houses, prep for the open houses. I mean, the structure that we have here for open houses is so much more robust than anything I had ever seen.
It's a week-long process.
It's a week-long process. When I started, it was just the basic, all right, open house. I wake up early Saturday morning, grab some cookies and some water. I show up, cross your fingers, and then hopefully somebody shows up. So if we take just that one example of open houses, break down that process for agents, just a single example for somebody out there that says, okay, maybe here's where you start. How would you do that?
First, you have to identify, like you said, there's too many agents throwing too many random ass open houses. They're in areas that they don't care about. They're at price points that they're never going to transact at because they think it looks cooler on Instagram to sit a $2 million listing than it does a $450,000 listing. Identify your price point. Start creating content around it is usually what we like to see on day 2. Start sending out mailers, start sending out flyers, start door knocking the neighborhood on Wednesday. Plan your actual open house on Thursday. Get your video posted. Start generating some conversations. Go knock some more doors around the neighborhood. Invite everybody out there. Friday, you're mapping out where you want to put your signs. We recommend anywhere from 20 to 40 signs in order to actually do an open house appropriately.
I used to do 3.
So there's a difference. Plan it out, grid out around it, a 4-block radius, figure out the corners, figure out the angles, figure out how to get people in there. And then Saturday, you're getting there an hour before it opens. You need to have lights on. You need to have signs up. You need to have balloons up. You need to have snacks, your music, your ambiance, your essence, as Michael McHenry would call it. You need to have all of that established at 10:30, not 11:15 when the open house is supposed to start at 11.
It's an event.
It is.
It's an event. Make it an event. Put it in the prep work.
This is an activity-based prospecting method. This is not show up for 2 hours. I tell all of my agents, I would rather have you throw an open house the correct way for 1 hour rather than throw it the wrong way for 4 hours.
Because here's the thing. Yes, you want to get buyers in the door. Yes, you're trying to sell that house. Absolutely. But you don't know who's watching. There are going to be homeowners out there, prospective sellers that are watching. You're like, man, that kid hustles. The last agent I had didn't do that. So that gives you a better shot to when it's their turn to sell, they see the activity that you can put in. So again, this is a two-pronged approach. We want buyers, absolutely, but there are sellers watching what you're doing, and if you can prove that skill set, that you have a process, when it's their turn to list, you're gonna get that phone call.
So your KPIs, conversations, leads, clients, active clients. I would not even put closings as a KPI because that is not a performance indicator, that is a performance result. So
What's the difference?
An indicator shows you that you're on the right path. A result is what happens if you are on that right path for long enough.
So a KPI you can control.
A KPI you can control.
A result, not so much.
Correct. So you have those four. You got your conversations, your leads, your active or your clients, and then your active clients. And then you need to be on this side of the funnel. You need to be tracking your conversion rate on the outside of this. If you are generating a ton of conversations, but they're not turning into leads, there's something broken in there. You need to tweak it. Then what gets really fun is after you've tracked that for 6 months to a year, you reverse engineer it. You say, okay, I want to have 20 closings, and then you just work your way up the funnel. If I want to have 20 closings, that means I need to have a total of 50 active clients over the course of the year based on my conversion rate. In order to get that many active clients, I have to have this many clients based on my conversion rate. In order to generate that many clients, I need to have this many leads that turn into this many conversations based on what your conversion rate is.
And at that point, you stop guessing. And that's, I think, one of the things that I've learned most being on this team is there's no guessing.
No, you know that if I have this many conversations and I trust my conversion rates,
it's going to happen.
The analogy I always use is the funnel analogy. If anybody has ever used a funnel for pre-workout or for protein powder or for anything, are you taking that funnel out of your water bottle to see if what's coming out the bottom is what you want? No, you put a scoop in the top and you trust that it's going to be there.
Exactly. So take out the guesswork. Luck is a really bad business model. Get rid of that through the proper KPIs. Next one, number 9, invest in continuous learning and professional growth. Realtors are CE junkies.
And convention junkies.
Convention junkies.
Chill on the conventions, y'all. Chill on the conventions. Y'all go for 4 days. You get a ton of excitement. You get a ton of energy. And then what happens?
Nothing.
You come home with a list full of notes and you don't do shit to change your business.
And you get ready for the next one that's in 4 weeks.
So then what happens once that dopamine wears off is a month later you start scrolling. Okay, when is Tom Ferry coming to Vegas next?
And you're going around the country spending a bunch of money trying to learn instead of working. So is it bad to go to conferences? No.
Yes.
Well, yes. But what I would say is do something about it. If you go to a class, if you're going to invest time, if you're going to take precious time out of your 10 to 2 to go to a class, it has to be something meaningful. It has to be something that you know is actually going to move the needle for your business. And a lot of it is being selective on what you're going to go consume, who you're going to consume it from, but also do something with it. And if there are agents that have taken my courses in the past, it's been frustrating for me to have agents that come to the same social media course for 3 years.
And they take the same notes
and
every
I look at their
single time.
social media and it doesn't change. I have people that have taken my podcasting class 6 times and they haven't started a podcast. So that is wasted time. And here I steal Alex Hormozy's definition of learning and of intelligence. So learning is same circumstance, different behavior. Same circumstance, different behavior. So if I'm picking up the phone and I have no script, and then I do it again and I have no script, and I do it again and I have no script, and it takes me 10 times to actually do a script versus somebody else that picks up the phone, no script, and on the second time they have a script, they have learned faster than I have. And intelligence is just a rate of learning. How quickly do you do that? So agents that go out and take all these classes and don't change the behavior, you have indeed learned nothing. You've learned nothing. So learn.
Well, don't get me wrong. I think that there are some fantastic minds within our industry. You have people like Tom Ferry that have been doing it for a long time, Jimmy Mackin, who I think is incredible. There are some very powerful minds within real estate, but I think that real estate is one of the few industries that has been largely undisrupted from outside of our industry. AI is still very slow to scale within real estate. You don't see a lot of the people that are going and pulling from outside of our industry. My advice for any agents that are here, one of my favorite books that I ever read had nothing to do with real estate. A lot of my favorite books that I read have nothing to do with real estate, and you take the principles and you apply it over here, and it's magical how well it works. Start pulling more from outside of the industry.
1,000%. Last one. Here we go.
Plan for scalability by leveraging technology and building a team.
So here I'm going to absolutely defer to you because I think that what you have done here over the last 12 months, I've been blessed to be a part of, but you've been driving the car the entire time. So how have you planned for that? We just doubled the size of our office. But with that, it wasn't just, okay, we're going to double the size of our office. Like, it's very intentional with what's going to happen with the lead budget, what's going to happen with agent count, by when do we have to hit a certain metric. So on this one, I'll absolutely defer to you because you have scaled this team from how many agents? Four. To what today? 60?
50, yeah.
50, 60?
Yeah.
And we have to double it in the next 12 months?
Yeah.
So run us through what your plan is for the Perry Group Utah County in the next 12 months and how you're going to get there.
There's a lot. And I think that's probably like what I would say is where most agents go wrong is they don't look at their business comprehensively.
You don't run your business like a business at all.
They don't view it comprehensively. They don't look at it in totality. They don't look at it and say, okay, I want to go from 4 agents to 50 agents. Okay, are you going to also increase your budget? Are you also going to increase your office space? Are you also going to increase this and this and this and this? So I think first things first, I would say if you want to run this like a business, like so many real estate agents want to, you have to treat it like a business, a legitimate business. A CEO that is operating a big company is not going to just say, I want to generate more leads. I'm going to generate more leads next year.
I just want to grow.
I want to grow.
What does that mean?
So I think you have to look at it comprehensively, and then I think you also have to ask, am I just growing for the sake of growing, or am I growing because that's what the team needs? For what we are trying to do, we absolutely need more bodies in seats, and we can clearly articulate that vision to agents that we interview with and say, this is why I need more bodies in the seats. This is what your future is going to look like on this team. If you're just saying, hey, I'm going to add a showing agent because I want to be able to go to my kid's soccer game, but I'm going to do the same amount of leads while increasing my cost, is not going to work. So you have to take a comprehensive look and say, where do I want to grow my business? Why do I want to grow my business? How am I going to grow my business? What am I going to do to grow my business? And if you don't do that, then you are going to completely miss the mark and you'll probably be out of the industry really quickly, I think.
Yeah, and here's where I'd love to have entire episodes in the future where we can break this down, because it is a very loaded topic, but I have been an observer of how to 5X an office size within 12 months and still have phenomenal production, still maintain culture, still keep people excited, still bring in other people that want to be a part of leadership, that want to contribute. That is very, very difficult to build. So I think the scalability, run your business like a business, the culture point is huge. So we will have more content on that in the future, because that is an entire 4-hour conversation of how this has been built, and I think it's absolutely masterful. Anything else you want to add?
Well, yeah, I was just going to say, I think that this is a fantastic point to follow after what we just talked about. If you say, hey, I want to double my leads, but you don't know what you're putting into the top of the funnel, there's so many agents. I interviewed, we talked about this last week. I interviewed an agent that said, I want to go from 12 to 24. How are you going to do that? Do you feel like you can 4X your input, or do we need to figure out some ways to streamline this and to cut down? So if you're not doing the KPIs first and then trying to figure out how to scale your business, you're going to miss the mark entirely.
Because even if you want to grow, you may not be ready.
Yeah.
And if you try to grow at the wrong time, then you're going to burn out. It's going to be chaotic. You're going to end up hating it. So for some people, based on where you're at, resource-wise, time-wise, staff-wise, you may actually be better off being small to medium size. You don't need to be huge right away. This idea of endless scaling, I think, can also be incredibly damaging.
I agree.
So that is our 10 points, you guys, 2-part series. If you didn't watch episode number 1, watch episode number 1. But when it comes to business planning, these are some of the things that we believe you should account for. These are some of the things that you should think about, that you should change or add. So hopefully, as you look through this list, you're like, shit, I've never even thought of these 4.
Think about that.
And if you can implement those in the proper way, then your business actually has a chance to grow. Then you actually have a shot of hitting the goals that you keep setting and you don't hit. If you consistently set goals and don't hit them, is because you're missing multiple of these 10 things. If you can implement those, your goals have more of a chance.
And we'll see y'all next week. We appreciate y'all.